All right, again, welcome everyone. My name is Felipe Godoy. I'm Director of Sales Engineering for RingMyName. And today I have the privilege of talking to you guys about working from home and how a cloud-based telephone system can help you leverage your team and help you work a little bit more efficiently. In today's webinar, we're going to cover a lot of topics, and there will be a live portion to our presentation here. We're going to do a live demo. For those of you that have never looked at RingMyName before or the full suite of features, you'll know that you may not know exactly how many features and different aspects there are to the product itself, and it may be a little bit of information overload. At any time, if you'd like more information or if you have questions, please feel free to enter your questions in the chat along the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. I may not be able to hear you, but I will be able to respond to you via chat. So in today's webinar, we're going to be learning about quite a few things. First, how a cloud-based telephone system can support active team communication, how to utilize unified communications tools to promote efficiency within your office and between your employees, and how to utilize monitoring and analytics to create a culture of productivity and accountability. Now, for everyone, I know specifically for us, our new normal is not like anything that we had ever imagined us, being a part of. We've, as you'll see in a moment, we're not just a company that sells a solution. We utilize all of the tools and the products that we develop. And so we are in the process, like many other businesses, of discovering useful and meaningful ways to use cloud-based and distributed work products to allow us to work more efficiently. In terms of how a telephone system can be used to for a team to communicate effectively, right? As I've said, distributed workforces have become the new norm for not just a number of growing businesses, but all businesses at this point. And for those businesses that aren't already on a cloud-based communications platform, or they don't have some sort of manner in which to forward their calls or start sending those communications to the employees working remotely, managing all kinds of different disparate platforms, whether that's forwarding services, Microsoft Teams, based chat-based, voice communications that sits outside of your telephone system. I talked to one company a few days ago where they were sending all of the phone calls forwarding all the lines to a receptionist working at home, and she was basically triaging, answering all those calls, triaging, and then sending text messages to employees or emails to let them know what was going on. All of those, are obvious ways that you can handle and work, and obviously what works for some may not work for others, but they are definitely not very efficient. And the risk of not having a cloud-based solution that incorporates a unified communications as a service platform is that there is a definite opportunity for business to be missed. Business owners and management in those types of solutions are left with no visibility of either not just whether their team is performing, but they have no assurance that any phone calls are actually, or all of their phone calls are being forwarded correctly. The forwarding service that they're using from their local telephone service provider is forwarding more than one call at a time, or whether, on that second call from a client, they're getting a busy signal because that line is being tied up by that one receptionist who's taking messages and triaging those calls. What we aim to talk about today is solutions that can be provided by RingMyName or any other cloud-based telephone service, for that matter, that you should, as business owners and managers, be thinking about as we move forward. Now, let's go back. Went too fast. Excuse me. So RingMyName provides a suite of unified communications tools that are designed for distributed teams. As you'll see in the live demo, it gives employees complete access to all of the resources inside the office, and it is designed to work seamlessly across platforms. So whether they're accessing their telephone calls, shared company contacts, notes, documents, or even their CRM entries, the system is designed to be accessed via a web browser, mobile device, or connected tablet. It allows for the same 4-digit dialing that works inside of your office to extend out to landlines or mobile phones, and for the routing of those calls that are already coming into your business to be seamless. Those calls are still answered by your main company number. They route through the same menu system, and those calls are delivered to your employees regardless of whether they are at home on a connected voice over IP device or simply working out of their home office on their cell phone or kitchen telephone. There is no costly equipment to maintain. So for those of you that are looking at, the costs to reconfigure or upgrade more expensive on-premise-based PBXs to allow for them to be used with a cloud-based service or with off-site employees, there's no additional equipment for you to buy. In most cases, RingMyName can be deployed within the same business day and route calls out to your employees without having anything other than a list of phone numbers and extension list. So it becomes very easy for a quick deployment. Now, in terms of the tools that we provide and you should be looking at for remote work, what's most important as I speak to business owners, managers, is the sense that particularly for those sales-based organizations where, in my case, I was just very used to walking through our sales pit and listening to those phone calls come in and those ringing calls to be picked up, to hear the transactions, those conversations happening, and that gave me assurance that my employees were receiving phone calls, that those leads were coming in, that sales were happening. That first week of working remotely came as a shock when I no longer had the ability to listen to those calls. But with RingMyName, I have access to the real-time presence of all users. I can see the status of all inbound phone calls that are routed through our system and routed even out to those telephone lines outside our platform. So I can see the calls as they come in, as they're transferred out to mobile phones. I can continue to see that phone call, how long they've been on the phone, who they're speaking to. I can even access those call recordings and listen to those recordings from my home. And in some cases, I can use tools like Call Monitor, Call Whisper to listen to and correct the employee. So I do have access to my Call Monitor, Call Whisper, and Call Barge. My employees have access to our shared contacts. So all of my customer contacts are on screen and available to my employees via the web application or mobile application. And along with it, our system includes basic CRM. So we have a place for all call notes, documents, and contracts, and even automatically log all of those active calls, inbound missed calls, voicemails, text messages. Everything I need to know about a communication with a potential customer or an existing client is automatically stored and available to me wherever I may be working from. In addition to that, RingMyName includes contact center grade call monitoring tools at no charge. So unlike some of the other solutions that may be out there, we don't have additional licensing costs or there's no additional licensing costs and no additional manager, quote unquote, seat fees in order to access these reports. My sales team, I can monitor from a single location. My customer care manager, for example, our customer service department, our manager can have a screen open on his computer or on the TV in his office at home, and he can see the inbound and outbound phone calls for our support teams. And if necessary, he has the statistics to be able to see, how long are customers waiting on hold to speak to an agent. What is the average talk time? He has a very good indicator of the health of not just the activity, but of our phone system itself. And then, of course, access to remote tools that are necessary for our business to continue to operate. So remote access to our eFax, so I can continue to send and receive faxes via our standard fax number. I can communicate with my existing customers via text message from my company's telephone numbers. So I'm not relying on my employees to send text messages and communicate with their clients in a way that, one, the customer may not recognize a number and not respond, to calls that are from unknown numbers, or potentially, where the calls are avoided as spam. But we do have access to the all of our customer records and the ability to communicate with them in a way that they're already accustomed to. Now, in addition to that, we have access to a very powerful set of monitoring and analytics tools. And our analytics and monitoring platform gives us access to, in real time, to call reporting to administrators and management within the company. So we can configure reports, and you can access reports to be able to see for your entire organization, reports on the efficiency or the number of inbound phone calls, missed phone calls, calls routed to specific departments, calls routed through specific numbers. All of those things I'll show you because it's a lot easier to see than to describe. In addition to that, our contact center style team and call queue monitoring platform, which again gives you metrics for each one of your employees and connected extensions, and gives you a sense of the health and the efficiency of the team, but also gives you the ability to monitor whether calls are being transferred out to those remote agents, or whether you're transferring calls out to a phone that may not be connected, where an agent maybe their internet went down, is no longer available and able to receive those phone calls. Again, one of the things that we developed in conjunction with our clients and at their request is two big items that are very important to our customers. And the first is something that no other phone company does at the moment. Is we provide call recording, but we're the only company that provides 10 years worth of archival for compliance purposes. So for businesses in the insurance and health industries, where they may be have compulsory regulatory compliance issues. So, for example, for the Affordable Care Act, where records must be held onto for 10 years. We are the only company that offers 10 years worth of archival on-call recordings. And that means that you are not in a position where you have to configure, download, and offsite storage of those recordings. All of that lives within your RingMyName cloud. And then, of course, for those businesses that have employees, again, offsite, where you may want to, for compliance or training purposes, make their access to their live calls available to management. We do have call monitoring, call whisper, and barge available as well. Now, before we dive into the next portion, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to a live demo. And as you'll see, there is a lot to see here. And so if you do have any questions, We will have a short question and answer period at the end. But if you do have something, feel free to insert that into the chat window located at the bottom right of the application. Now, what we're looking at here is RingMyName's main dashboard, and this is where our clients live, is what I like to say. And what we're looking at here is my active call window. So as you can see here, during my phone call, whether it's an inbound or outbound phone call, RingMyName will actually pop up an active call window with some details as to whether I have made an outbound call or I'm receiving an inbound call. I have access to online call handling buttons. So as you can see, I have a mute button, a hold button. So if I'm working again, receiving those calls at home on a mobile device or application, I don't need to have, my cell phone doesn't have a music on hold button. I just have that mute button, which customers are not accustomed to just getting dead silence when they reach a business. So I can actually hit that hold button and place my music on hold. Now, if I'm granted permission, I do also have the ability to start and stop recording of my phone calls. And if it's an inbound or outbound number to a number, not to a conference service, but to a standard number, I do have the ability to, again, even though I'm not at a business phone, I have access to be able to transfer that call to another coworker inside the business by dialing their 4-digit extension or their direct number. But I can also transfer this number out to another coworker at their home, or maybe this is a call that is going to be handled by another client that I'm going to refer this call to, or to an external contractor. I can actually transfer those calls out to an external number, release that line from that call from my line, and be ready for that next phone call. Now, I do have a small notes window, so any notes that I take will automatically be entered and attached to that Chime conference application here. And I have the ability to jump directly into the contact card, perform a web search, which will automatically search for the contact's name and telephone number and address via a a Google search, and also look up the area code and number to see what geographical area that call is coming from. Now, if I minimize this, you'll see that I still have an active call view in the background, but you'll also see as I scroll down here in the center, these are our live presence tiles. And the presence tiles gives us access to essentially the status for all of our phone calls, right? So at a glance, I can see who's available to talk, who's on the phone. I can actually filter those, so I can see right now there are only 2 calls active on the platform right now. So I'm dialed into a Chime conference here. I've been on the call for 26 minutes and 37 seconds. Mario is receiving a phone call from Joe. So these are 2 folks in the sales department in Miami. They've been speaking to each other for 8 minutes and 48 seconds. I can actually see who's ringing, who's available on hook and ready to speak. I can even take a look at anybody who has marked themselves in Do Not Disturb. And if they are in Do Not Disturb status, the system does allow you to place yourself in Do Not Disturb status, but also with an explanation. So if I'm in Do Not Disturb because I'm in a meeting or at lunch or perhaps taking some personal time, not only will it display that Do Not Disturb to my coworkers, but it will show them the reason in that tile as well. Now, what some of you may not have noticed is the tile also gives us the ability to see who is on the phone, but where they are too. So, for example, Phil Schrenk here at extension 7035, he is in our Kansas City Carrier Center. So the local time there is 9:50 in the morning. He is an hour behind us. So for folks that are in distributed teams or have multiple locations, remote offices, this product is designed to give you as much information at your fingertips to be able to allow you to work adequately and correctly. Now, to give you an idea about the automatic call logging, I'm going to show you some information here. This is the contact card for Silvano. And as you can see, if I scroll down, I have all of the notes that I've entered, test notes about, conversations that we've had. notes that I can share with coworkers or with entire departments, maybe even email out to those external clients or contractors. But all of my inbound and outbound phone calls with anybody inside the office have all automatically been logged. Now, what this does is all of this information becomes available on an inbound phone call. So if this is a customer that is calling into my team, whether they're reaching me or they're reaching one of my coworkers or perhaps a receptionist, it doesn't matter that we're not in the office. All of that transactional history, whether it's the text messaging we've sent back and forth, whether it's our phone call history, our inbound and outbound faxes, or our CRM, so our actual sales opportunities, they're all listed in one place. And so for a distributed workforce, this is an ideal tool to allow teams to work more efficiently, particularly when you don't have the ability to just walk over and ask a question. You can still call each other, but sometimes you need access to that information automatically and upfront. Now, from across the top, what you'll see here is our Unified Communications as a Service modules. And what you'll see here is our web-based dialer. And so we can actually start looking for a person by their name or by their telephone number. And I can actually launch a call to that person by clicking on their telephone number. And that will reach me on my voice over IP device or on my cell phone. As soon as I pick up, it'll call out to them. And the reason for that is it is not going to show my cell phone number or my private contact information because I'm working remotely. It will always show the caller ID for my company or my personal direct extension at work. It will never show my home phone number. Now, what we're also looking here is our soon-to-be released web phone. So for companies that don't want to or don't yet have IP telephones, this is something that can be used with just a standard headset or your iPhone headset plugged into your laptop computer. Basically, this turns any web browser into a soft phone that can be used to make and receive phone calls simply by clicking from that ringback to web-based telephone, web phone here. And this is in the pre-release stage. What we're looking at here is our internal account, but this is set to be released to all of our accounts next week. Now, in addition to that, our most popular feature, again, is that our SMS tool. And so you can see here we have access to all text messages received, not just at our main company number, but we have access to direct text messages received at our private direct numbers for salespeople. This has one really cool feature that I like to point out. So this is, as you can see, this is all of our company SMSs. But as you can see, I have a text message thread, let's say, going with a potential customer or with an existing client. I'm contacting them to let them know that we have a new feature, our web dialer, our web phone. And in the course of that conversation, they let me know that they're having an issue or they need help repairing something inside their telephone system. Now, if this were a standard phone call, I would offer to transfer that call to technical support. I can't take credit. We can't take credit for this. This was actually a brilliant idea from one of our clients. What we now allow you to do is take that conversation, that thread of text messages, and transfer them to another person inside the company. So I can actually take this text message, transfer it to one of our technicians in our engineering department or our support department, let them know that I have a customer whose text messaging thread I'm transferring to them so that they can help the customer out to repair or solve an issue. And they get a little red pop-up notice saying that they're now responsible for the thread. They get the notifications on the application via email for that corresponding to going back and forth. And once that issue is resolved, they would then transfer that thread back to me so I can continue. And so we treat text messages exactly the way most folks also treat phone calls. And this has become one of our most powerful and popular tools, not just within our own company, but with our customers as well. There's one very large restaurant group here in South Florida that's using this basically to receive calls at a central booking, or they were at a central reservations department, and then they were transferring that text message out to the local restaurant for the final seating time, and also to announce when the table was ready, all through this web application and the web application accessed by a hostess or a maitre d' at their restaurants using a internet-connected tablet. So some really cool potential feature uses there. We do also have access to our faxes, our inbound and outbound e-faxes. So we do have the ability to read and view all of those faxes received onto our company faxes, but also have the ability to send faxes out, and we can send any common file type for most offices. So whether it's a PowerPoint, an Excel spreadsheet, a text file, an image, or a Word doc, all you would have to do is fill out the destination information, select the fax number if you have more than one, fill out what you would like to appear on the cover sheet and hit send. And once that fax is sent, what you'll see here as I go through this list here, so if I click on US Bioservices here, for example, and I click on their fax history, that fax is automatically attached to and becomes part of the record, that shared contact for that client. And again, this is part of allowing our distributed teams, our remote work teams, to work more efficiently. The same thing with our CRM, right? We have the access to, like many businesses have out there, it's particularly small businesses, they want access to something like a Zoho or a Salesforce, but don't necessarily want to pay the $200 a month per user. RingMyName's CRM application essentially allows you to track those opportunities for each employee at a fraction of the price. So our CRM plugin here, our CRM upgrade, retails at $16.95 per month per user. And again, it takes that information and automatically attaches it to the contact, so I don't have to go around digging for the details and status of my potential sale or my contracts. It has them all in one central location. Now, from a management standpoint, we have our local management administrators have access to this back end, which is called our system administration area. And from here, they have access to two really powerful tools. The first is our department and queue monitor. And this essentially allows you to create a set of queues and watch lists. So let's say you want to have a screen here that lets you in real time monitor just the important extensions for, let's say, your sales team, or if you're the compliance manager in insurance, and you want to make sure that those inbound calls to your underwriting department or your claims department are being handled correctly. You can see who's on the phone and who's not. You can dial in and listen to those calls in real time as they're happening using our call whisper feature. You have the ability to, at a glance, see how many calls have been received. So in this case, we're looking at our customer care team in Miami. They've received 4 inbound calls. Only 1 call has been dropped. I happen to know that was a test call from me. There are 35 agents available to talk. There are 2 active calls at the moment and no calls holding in the queue. And so far today, this is a really great number. Our average hold time to reach a live technician is only 43 seconds. So this is a great tool for our management a team to be able to, again, create that sense of efficiency. We know what's going on, but our employees also, they know that, that we're not necessarily tracking them, but they don't need to be micromanaged. Because we don't have to worry about, particularly if you're like me. I like to be on top of everything and know everything. And if you speak to some of the sales team, if they're on the phone, I'm behind them whispering, tips into their ears as they speak to a customer. And I know I can be annoying, but in this case, I have a sense of calm because I can see that work happening. In our department monitor, as I track those calls coming into our individual departments. So, for example, here I like to always take a look at our support team. I can see once I do this search, I can see all of their inbound calls. So again, today they've only received one call. They've only had this particular team has made 0 outbound calls. None of their calls have rolled over to another team because they didn't answer. There haven't been any abandoned calls, so nobody's dialed into the menu, started to wait, listening to the hold music, gotten bored and hung up, and they've had 0 missed calls. And I have the ability to see who's made that call, who's received it, how long they've been on the phone, their average talk time, their average time per call, and how long it takes them on average to answer that ringing telephone. All things that are great, not necessarily appropriate or germane to each and every business, but there is one tool in here that I always demonstrate because of its just incredible power, and that's our handled unreturned calls report. And what this is basically a tool which in real time, in a second you'll see that blinking red light here in the corner, it listens for all calls that are received at your main number. And maybe that customer listened to your menu, they made a selection, or maybe they didn't, right? Maybe they were about to make a selection, they were going to press 1 for sales or 2 for support, whatever that may happen to be. And they didn't. Maybe their kid came in with, fell off a bike and had a skinned knee, or maybe they received another phone call and they hung up. Well, for those of us, particularly in these times, any missed opportunity, any missed call is a potential business that if we don't return that phone call, if we don't reach out to that person, that's business that potentially evaporates. And so what happens is it's all a numbers game, right? If a customer calls in to get information from your company, and you're not available, they hang up. If they forget about it or somebody else reaches out to them, whatever, however that it may work in your business, that's potential lost revenue. And so what this does is it listens for those calls that don't connect to an agent, don't connect into a menu all the way through, and it tells you what date and time they called in, from what number. If we have caller ID information received from that number, we'll show you the caller ID, we'll show you how many times they called in, and then we'll give you 3 action buttons. The first is a callback button. And if I were to click here, it's going to call that customer back and let them know. I can say, "Hi, Mr. Robinson, this is Felipe at RingMyName. We noticed you called in, but weren't able to talk to anybody. Is this a good time?" And from those customers that listen, have started to use this product. There's one insurance company in particular we have a white paper on. They reported an increase of 37% in their sales, which they attribute directly to returning phone calls, these unreturned calls. Simply by calling back and saying, "Hey, we noticed you called in and didn't talk to anybody," right? You can almost hear the jaw hitting the chest on that customer. Now, with more and more folks, not having home phones but having cell phones, we also have, because we're a phone company rather, we can take that phone number and scrub it against our national database, and we can tell which ones are mobile phones. So you can reply to this missed opportunity with a canned or freehand message saying, "Hi, this is Felipe calling, texting you from RingMyName. We noticed that you weren't able to speak, you called into our number and didn't connect to anybody, if this is a good time for us to talk, please reply yes, and I'll call you right away, right? And again, you can almost, feel that shock and surprise. It's a great icebreaker for our employees and our sales team to use with possible missed opportunities. And then, of course, we all have, the calls which will appear on this report, which are known numbers. Maybe it's a manager testing the line. Maybe it's the guy who calls once a week to offer us free gutter cleanings, or to test the water quality, to sell us a water purification system. So we know what those things are. In our case here, the second number is actually our front door telephone. So it's probably an Uber delivery, an Uber Eats delivery these days, where they called in from the front door phone to get access into our building, but nobody answered because they were already in the lobby and opened the front door. And in that case, we would just enter information about the call. So I would do the same. And I would mark it save. And that note gets moved from our unreturned calls to our returned calls. And that happens, again, automatically. The system goes back to listening for those missed opportunities. Now, in most of other systems, these are all items that require an additional license fee. They require manage specific levels of seats or additional products to be purchased. With RingMyName, all of this is included at no charge. And the last thing I want to show you is, again, our advanced reporting tool. And what this does is it basically gives you the ability to take a look at and search all of your phone calls for, let's say, I'm going to look at Anna here. And I'm just going to ask for the last 24 hours worth of call history. And within seconds, the system pulls up every inbound and outbound phone call, text message, missed call, and you'll see her recordings are also available. So I can listen to her calls online. I can download them for compliance purposes. I can download a spreadsheet of all of the activity. I can even have the system email me this information as a report. And so for companies that have compliance issues that are using this to train their employees, we have a very powerful reporting platform built in addition to our monitoring system. We have the ability, we have one of my favorite clients is a law firm. It's a pretty big law firm. And what they do is they have one of their paralegals one day a month go down the list of their clients and basically run a report of all their active cases. And so they will export a spreadsheet for each one of the numbers or clients they have in their contact record, because when the client calls in and speaks to an attorney, you bet they're billing that. They're putting it into the system for as billable hours. But what they noticed is when that same client calls in and doesn't make it to the attorney, maybe they ask for a bit of advice or have questions that are answered by a paralegal, those don't always make it to the billing platform. And so they're using this report to find, on average, an extra hour and 45 minutes worth of billable time for every client. So a very powerful tool, again, included at no charge. And again, you'll see here all of the recordings are there. We do give you access to 3 months of recordings via this portal, but we do archive all of the recordings for 10 years. So if you are in one of the regulated industries that has long-term storage and archival requirements, we are the only company in America that is in automatic compliance. You do not need to export or set up data warehousing either on-site or via an online company through us. Now, the other thing is You'll notice here I haven't talked about how long or how many recordings you can have on here. We do not have any storage maximums. So you will never run out of voicemail space. You will never run out of recording space. All of your recordings and all of your voicemails are automatically archived inside of RingMyName's data center, or data centers, plural. Now, in terms of, again, that ease of deployment, we can deploy without hardware. It does not require your company to, companies that still haven't set up a cloud-based solution for work from home. It doesn't require you to go out and purchase and wait for stacks and stacks and boxes of phones to be delivered to your office. We can deploy within one business day by transferring those calls out to a cell phone or a landline, or even utilizing a soft phone on a computer or a laptop with a headset. It does give you the ability to have visibility of all of your call activity, your client notes, your call recordings in real time for management, and access to all of the features at no extra charge. And on day one, we can even take the export from your current Outlook, your Gmail, if you're using Google as your G Suite as your corporate communications and email platform. We can take all of your contact information out of there. We can upload those contacts from Microsoft Dynamics, from Outlook, anything that you can export into a text file or into a spreadsheet, we can automatically upload into RingMyName so that the system starts working and archiving and logging all of your calls and making them available for your customers, for your employees on day one. Now, all indications are that come fall, this thing is probably going to boomerang on us again, and like it or not, we're probably going to end up social distancing again. So what happens the next time this comes around, right? What's the procedure? Do you have to call out your local telephone vendor and have them reprogram all of your menus and start this whole process all over again? Well, no. With RingMyName, all you have to do is, if you switch to RingMyName and you are using RingMyName and you've got those IP phones at home, then all you have to do is unplug that phone, take it home, plug it from that internet source, whether that's the router or the Comcast modem in your office or bedroom, plug it into your phone, and then from your phone, plug into your computer or your other internet-enabled device at home. That's all. It's just that one plug. That's all that's required, and maybe that little power adapter, but it's just one cable from the internet out to your phone, and that's it. You're up and running. This is if you want to send your employees home with phones. If not, it's just a matter of flipping and turning on the forwarding out to your cell phones or landlines, all of which can be done online, pre-staged, and set up by an administrator or by our support team. So on the day that you decide to, quote unquote, pull the trigger and start forwarding those calls, it can happen automatically. Now, I know it's a lot of information for you guys to absorb. We've actually run a little bit over. We're at just shy of 40 minutes, so we went about 10 minutes over. Are there any questions? If you do, please feel free to, once again, enter those into the chat window, and I'll be more than glad to address them. Very good. Well, I'd like to thank all of you for your time today and for joining me on this online webinar. It will be made available for download online. You'll receive a link shortly via email, along with a copy of our remote work checklist in case you haven't received it or downloaded it already. And if you do have any more questions in the future, please feel free to contact one of our representatives by going to our website or calling us at 855-345-7464. Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone.